Welcome to Peggy's Place. I'm Leigh Anne Lindsey, your host today, along with Marg Lindgren of Unbeaten Path Tours that she runs with her husband, Phil Newberry. Hi, Marg, and welcome to Peggy's Place.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm I'm feeling well and I'm doing well and hanging in there.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, for all of our listeners, Marg has a corporate business background in high tech and architecture, and she's now a naturalist, a citizen scientist with the Greater Farallones Marine Sanctuary, a yoga instructor, a regional historian, and an ever-loving student of being in nature. And this, of course, we're in a whole new world these days, and everybody's operating on different levels and channels and reworking their own business, which you obviously had to do
Yeah.
because you're out there guiding tours all along the Sonoma and Mendocino coasts normally.
Yes. So the tourism industry, like for many of us in this region, because a lot of our dollars that come in here are from transient tourism. That's what we refer to. And within a week, all business was stunned into silence. Everything came off the board. Everything canceled, refunded, or rescheduled way out to the end of the year. So it has been shocking, to say the least. Regionally, right, we really depend on tourism dollars. It's a very significant industry up here for these rural communities. So with respect to my business and many of the hotels, we were just stunned into silence. Within 1 week of COVID breaking out in the US, everything came off the scheduling board immediately. People were canceling, we were refunding, and there is nothing on my schedule until August.
Yes, everybody has been going through the scramble, as I
Yeah.
like to call it, the scramble to get your feet underneath you and figure out a new path.
It's all about right now, right here is all about pivoting. So there's sort of, I think the other day I was writing about it. It's like being on this incredible roller coaster ride. You're just completely powerless, it feels like, that vulnerability. And at the same time, it's extraordinarily thrilling, right? Because you have to get creative and you have to use your brain
You
and
do.
and put it out there. So that part of it is exciting and hard at times. So
Yes, I noticed that when I was operating the station, all of KGUA remotely the other day for a couple of days straight. And I was doing a lot of jumping through mental hoops right and left,
yeah,
figuring all the different
yeah,
apps I was using and the way to get the files, where to get them, how to edit them, get them back on the air.
right,
So for
right,
me, I've done remote control of the station many times over the past many couple years that I've been a volunteer,
right,
but not running it all day long. So
right. It's
that was
exhausting.
a challenge,
Right.
but we're doing it. You know,
Yeah.
Peggy is still going into the station and every day. So she's carrying a lot on her shoulders right now as well. So whenever I can, I jump in and pitch in.
Well, and KGUA is such a huge part, right? You're our communication box, you're our voice box for the community, and it's really critical, right? So we're really glad you're able to do that
Oh,
and
I love
continue
that
it.
phrase, the voice box for the community. I love it.
Lovely. What would we do without you?
Oh, thank you so much. And what would we do without you too? Because you provide a real resource for people in our community and around the world, really, because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And you have put together a whole stream of meditation videos. You're conducting online courses. Why don't you take us down that path?
Yeah. Well, I think all of us right now are really in this opportune time for reflection, inner and self-reflection, right? Where one of the things I realized with this whole crisis is that when I moved here, Unbeaten is about blazing your own trail. That's why it's called Unbeaten Path. And so everything that I put into my work is my passion. It's what I love to do. And so when COVID happened, it's everything that brings meaning to me in this lifetime was under attack, right? I mean, you're
Right.
stunned into silence and you're not able to do what you love. And fortunately, I have family and I have my pugs, and that helps me get through. But suddenly, you're really having to think about, how am I going to get through this, and then how am I going to step onto the other side of this? So the meditations that I began to put out was the concept that we have to breathe collectively together through this. And breathing is probably the best thing that we can do for ourselves right now, is to just set your reminder on your smartphones for every hour to chime in and remind you to just take 3 minutes to breathe deeply. And it's probably one of the healthiest things you can do. It can increase lung capacity, it calms you, but ultimately it can join us together during this crisis. And so the meditations that I began to put out, I was really, in a way, it was selfish, right? Because it was helping me. And I figured, if it can help me,
Right.
it can probably help someone else too. And
Absolutely.
so really a lot of what I do is based on that. It's coming from an authentic place within me. And so I think the best thing that we can do is recognize that getting back on the horse takes more courage than falling off, right? I mean, so I think a lot of us are stumbling and we're muddling through as best we can. And this has been a part of that pivot, those meditations. Everyone getting online. I work with Sutras Yoga with Emily McConnell, and Woven Light Studio has been working really hard to put their stuff online, and it's challenging. And yoga is probably one of the places I actually feel the most vulnerable, because you have to be real and you have to be humble and bring yourself to the mat. And
I'm glad you said that too, because I noticed when I'm looking at your videos just earlier today and going through the breathing exercise with you, I
right,
felt that way. I felt very vulnerable,
yeah,
and it was a little scary,
yes,
but it also helps to bring you in balance and to
yeah.
center you.
And I
Because,
think that's a very, very, very important point, is that, this vulnerability that we're in right now, we we have to validate it and acknowledge it. And, a part of going within and trying to find that place of bliss within ourselves is really, you expose yourself, you risk what you feel is exposure. And in a way, it's very liberating, because you can acknowledge that that it is a vulnerable place. And then once you do, it's gone, right? You sort of burn that vulnerability out, and then you have the freedom to then fill that void in with positivity, with hope, with passion and creativity. So, all of this, as yucky as it is at times, is an extraordinarily wonderful time to do some major laundry, inner laundry.
oh, that's a good phrase too, your inner laundry.
I hope that's a good phrase.
Well, if
But
you
it feels like that, right? Like we're wringing the inner dirty laundry out. That's what
true.
it feels like.
True. Well, if you're just tuning in, this is Marg Lindgren of Unbeaten Path Tours, and you can find all of her information and writing. She's a great writer too, who's written some blogs about her experience, as well as has provided online videos at unbeatenpathtours.com. And there's a stream for those meditation videos that we've been talking about. And we're going to actually play some of those at the end of our conversation here on Peggy's Place. And this is KGUA 88.3 FM in Walla, California, on the Northern California coast. You can catch us on the stream at kgua.org, on apps Radio Garden and TuneIn, as well as RadioFreeAmerica.com.
Wow.
All of those places.
Wow. You're like a life coach too. I love it. That's very nice.
So,
Very supportive.
Marge, tell me a bit, tell all of us a bit about your background and how you got to being the teacher that you are today.
Um, Geez. you know, uh, well, first of all, I think where it really began, nothing was by mistake, I don't think, you know, so even way before I moved up here, everything that I've done has culminated to bring me where I am today, obviously, for all of us. And we moved here 13 years ago. We literally sold everything. We used to visit here a lot in the late 90s and 2000 and up, and we moved here permanently in 2007 to Sea Ranch.
So where were you before the Sea Ranch?
So we were in San Diego,
Okay.
and I had been out there since about 94. I'm from the East Coast, and my husband is from London. And so he had come out to San Diego with me, and we had been there for some time, but always came up here. In fact, we got married at the Farmhouse Inn in 2000, ages ago, before it got remodeled. And the same chef is there.
Wow.
Yeah, we got married there for the food. It was wonderful. But so what moving here was probably the biggest step in honoring the fact that we wanted a better quality of life, and being up here gave us just that. I mean, it is so profoundly beautiful here, and we've traveled extensively, and I would say this is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It is.
As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at your room with the window there, beautiful redwood tree soaring up
Right.
through,
It's
just
crazy.
looking through your window, and mine too. I'm looking out at a complete beautiful redwood forest, and the fairy rings too. I've got several of those around my house.
Right.
And it's so peaceful, and I actually have a little bit of an ocean view as well, so it's a
Yeah.
comforting.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And when you're here, you realize very quickly that you're part of this grand collective that is beautiful, wild, northern coast of California, right?
Right.
And that you are nature. And so when we first moved here, I worked at the Sea Ranch Association. I was in the design review department, the architectural assistant there. And I really love architecture. I like the philosophies of the Sea Ranch. It's one of the things that drew me here. And I wanted to create a different conversation about that, something that anybody could participate in. And so Unbeaten really began from my passion for nature and architecture, and my very first, what I call a walkabout experience. I really don't like the word tours, so I sort of want to change the company name a little bit, but because it is an experience, it's a collective experience when I take guests out. And it was about sharing my passion for those two things. And that's how it really began. And what I found was that there was a very profound, unconditional form of reciprocity that occurred. When I would share and express my passion for something, others would do the same. And you would learn from them and they from you. And so it was really very profound. And it changed me. It really changed me. And that's really Unbeaten, seeded from that. And it's blossomed. It started really as a spark of intention, and it's a bonfire. And even though it's on a temporary hold right now, it's all of this is seeding new blossoms. So I'm still excited about the future and what we have to offer, and how creative we can be with it.
And you will be back out there.
Right.
You will be guiding more of those walking tours
Right.
up and down our beautiful coast.
Yeah. I mean, there's just, I think when we realize that we're not separate from our surroundings, that we are those surroundings, it shifts our perspective. We gain more appreciation and respect for place. And that's where the conversation has to start. If you want to care for the planet, if you want to care for this biosphere, you start a conversation, about being of nature and being of place. So when we talk about Unbeaten, it's about an experience of place, connecting people to place as a collective.
So let's take that one step further. I don't mean to be making all these puns, but one step further.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's go to the Point Arena area where you have guided tours there. Describe what it's like when you will get back to guiding tours, what it's like for people to be there with you.
So in terms of Point Arena, the Stornetta Lands is probably one of my other hot spots, right? So
Right.
in terms of popularity, it's either architecture or it's the Stornetta Lands. These two are, and they're the scales for sure.
And
And they
I
balance.
actually just went up there I have not gone up to the Stornetta Lands that much, but I did one big day of touring it when
Yeah,
they had it an open day for touring,
right.
guided walks, and it was actually in the rain and it was beautiful. My sister was here. It's a gorgeous piece of land and area.
Oh, it's astounding. And what's so incredible about it is that it's so different from, say, Saw Point, even from
Right.
Sea Ranch. It's just profoundly different. And it's this wide open canvas of landscape that you can have these incredible conversations. Um, and specifically what we talk about a lot of the times, certainly on the north end of the Stornetta Lands, the way I created tours, I base it on the questions I have myself. As a traveler, as somebody who's experiencing the lands for the first time, one of the first questions I had was, how are these offshore rocks forming? And what's the story behind them? Because they're so critical to our marine wildlife habitats. They're huge nesting grounds. So the birding up in Stornetta is just, it's fantastic. And so we start the tour based on these questions. And when you share that with people, and I'm a big fan of analogies. So I create these almost ridiculous analogies because it's the way I capture it in my mind. I don't think through words, I think visually. So analogies are really important to me. And this is the way I share the experience of plays. And when we do that and we have a conversation about that, how those offshore rocks form, um, it people are bound to place. All of a sudden, they now start looking at every offshore rock and putting their own story to it, their own analogy to it, and they take what I put out there and they expound on it. And when you share authentically from the heart, and I'm going to repeat that, when you share authentically from the heart, it has a very profound ripple effect.
It
And
really does.
it does.
And
And it's
it
not me, right? It's everyone else that takes it that extra distance and into infinity. It's really powerful. It's a really
it
cool thing.
it's interesting what you're saying too, because now I remember that when I was walking the Stornetta Lands, it was with my sister Janice, my older sister from Colorado, and she was there with her. She was visiting with her husband, and we were going to take a tour with you. I was
Oh
about to
yeah.
book it,
Yeah.
and then we had the PSPS.
That's right. It was the Discover the Coast.
Right, that
Right.
was the day.
Yeah. Right.
So she, now interestingly enough, she is a botanist and biologist. She's written a book called Wild at Heart. So there's another connection.
Wow.
Wild at Heart, and it's all about the Rocky Mountain area that she lives in the Aspen Snowmass Village area. And she's even expanded it to the rest of Colorado. She won a book award in 2005 for it. It's still on Amazon.
Wow. I'll have to get
Yep.
it.
Her name is
That's so
Janice
cool.
Lindsey Huggins, and I really wanted her to walk with you, especially because of the way you both, she guides, she used to guide hikes too, to
Right.
show people the flora and the fauna there in that area. And that's the way she would experience, they would experience it through her, and then they would give a good connection too. So
Right.
that's maybe one day, the next day she's out here, next time, we will definitely
That
go
would
with
be absolutely. And what's her name again?
Janice Lindsey Huggins.
Janice Lindsey Huggins. I will look up her book. And what's the name of the book again?
Wild at Heart, something, it's got a subtitle that I cannot remember at the moment.
That's
I got
okay.
it up there on my shelf, but it's about the Snowmass Aspen area. So
That's
Snowmass
awesome.
Village is in the title too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. And that the point, like what you were saying about your sister, is that when we do that, the sharing authentically, like sharing your part of place, right? it's an echo. It echoes back. It's really and then that's exactly what nature does. And
It gets you in the moment by doing that too.
yes, right. And we do a lot of work with Timber Cove Resort, which currently is closed until this COVID crisis passes. And I'm a huge fan of Benny Bufano. And so, here's artwork, we have the architecture and nature. And all of these things are really one and the same. And we're a part of that too. And we can look at all these things and we can begin to ask ourselves really important questions. How are we personally responding to the conditions of our environment, the way the architecture does, or maybe the way an abalone shell does, or the way our tide pools, the way Benny Bufano's art is responsive to the conditions of the cultural environment. So all these things lead us to ask questions that all relate to nature and how it's operating as a collective. And, the more we do that, the more bound we are to the fact that we are all really one of the same. And I don't know, it's incredibly liberating, I think, in a lot of ways to have those conversations. You don't feel alone.
Well, you're listening to the wisdom of Marg Lindgren of Unbeaten Path Tours here on the Sonoma and Mendocino coasts. This is KGUA 88.3 FM. This is Peggy's Place. I'm Leigh Anne Lindsey, the host today. And with Unbeaten Path Tours, you can go to the website. There's a lot of great writing there on the blogs, and there's some guided meditation and breathing exercises in some of your videos. And you have an online course that you do. Can tell our listeners about that.
So we are Zooming online classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. PST, so West Coast time, 4 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. Mondays, we call it Meditation Mondays. And then Wednesdays are Unbeaten Yoga Wednesdays. And usually on Wednesdays, I like to give people a good workout. So I push you and challenge you, and I push and challenge myself. So, and what I love about the yoga work is, I try and create a class format that is all levels. So it can meet you where you are and take you where you need to go, period.
Novice.
Yeah, right?
I've never done it, so I'm a little resistant, but you're saying it's open to all levels.
Yeah, my brother, God love him, he's such a sweetheart. He he's down in San Diego, and he participated. He's a total novice, and I loved hearing his feedback because it's really mindful and it's helpful for me. But even just sitting in your chair and being able to do it in your chair, if you're somebody who's brand new to it, you're not used to sitting on a yoga mat, easy pose, a cross-legged seated pose. I always say it ain't easy. It's not.
No, I looked at you and I said, "No, my knees are not doing that."
No, right? So, if there's anything about me as a teacher, is that I'm a humble bumble. I'm super humble, and there's a lot of humility when I'm on the mat. And so my hope is that translates for those who are endeavoring and taking the chance to help themselves. And, I fall on my face a lot in life, and it's not it's not a great feeling, but like I said, it's about getting back on the horse. It's not life that matters. It's the courage you bring to it. And so I salute everyone who wants to improve from within. It's a very noble thing, I think, to take that chance on yourself.
And this way you're giving to the community as well, because right now you're waiving the fee for your courses. But there is a way, I'm telling my listeners now, our listeners, that they can support you. There is a way to use either Venmo or PayPal, I believe.
Right. So we list the course at $12 or by donation, and I know we're all in the same boat.
Right.
So, to me, it's like, what's more important is that you're there, and that you're not alone, and that we're in this as a collective. We're in this together, and we're breathing collectively. So just, rock and roll it. who cares? You know, come on board and we'll be in this together.
I think you said it all right in that last few sentences. You really did,
Good.
because we are. And I do have one last question before we start to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And that would be, tell us a little bit about your yoga experience and what type of yoga it is that you teach. And is there two different things that you do? Like, are you doing both the different types of breathing meditation and yoga meditation, or what are the differences, or are they all the same?
So I'm actually certified in Kundalini yoga. And I started taking Kundalini, oh gosh, in the early 2000s, probably about 2005, I started. And the reason I chose Kundalini in my life and I decided to become certified in it, I became certified several years back, is that I'm a total Aries person. Aries they're about explore. You know, we're explorers, so we like breaking barriers. But boy, oh boy, you know, we're intense. And so I'm really good at muscling through everything. And I could take a yoga class or aerobics or whatever, golf, you name it, and I would muscle through it. And Kundalini, for the first time in my life, was about not just the physical body, but the mental, emotional, and spiritual body. So my mind was going to the gym. My mind was going to the mat. And for the first time, I was able to find a new relationship with my ego, right? I was able to, you know, have inner conversations and build greater awareness of what my patterns are in life, what triggers me. It helped me deal with a lot of really bad habits. And it's still helping me do that today. So Kundalini is what I teach. Kundalini works, I sort of call it yoga aerobics, right? Because there's a lot of rhythmic movement in Kundalini and a lot of breath work. And the wonderful thing about breath work, let me tell you, it is like the number one diet pill. It's excellent for your metabolism. It's excellent for the clarity of mind. And it's excellent for detoxifying. It is so profoundly important. So set your reminders on your phone to breathe at the top of every hour. Just take 3 minutes.
Okay, you can miss me.
Yeah, so do that. 3 minutes of long, deep breathing. Okay, just it's that powerful. But you know, so it had a profound effect on me, and I began to teach it, and it wasn't well known when I mean, it's well known, but it's not that common. We don't see it a lot. And so I like the fact that it's now becoming more popular and people recognize how powerfully effective it is. It's super, super fast and effective. And some of the work that we do, really can build your toolkit for life from Kundalini Yoga. So that's what we bring to the table on Mondays and Wednesdays.
And the time is what, 4 to 5?
4 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. And you know what's wonderful about Kundalini is that it's really not, you're not doing these difficult asanas, you know, where you know, some people are intimidated but feeling like they might have to fold themselves and up like a pretzel. And you know, I think all yogic technologies are absolutely so profoundly effective. They're really incredible. And you know, but there's certain technologies, and I call them technologies because these like indigenous cultures, these yogi masters that were putting these technologies together were deeply connected. They understood the energy of their bodies, their surroundings, and the celestial bodies that surround our biosphere. And they passed that technology forward. They were the neuroscientists of their time. And so, you know, this is a technology that's very, very effective. And Kundalini, for me, is just within 3 minutes, you can find a tool somewhere within the technology of Kundalini that will really be a quick aid and help you reset and balance. And it's a household yoga. Anybody can join in, jump in, and do that and use those tools. So I encourage people to reach out to me if you have questions about it, and let's have a discussion or come on class and we'll go from there.
That's very profound. And also, I think it really touches to the core of what we are all facing currently right now.
Yeah.
And it reminded me as we were talking about this too, I have another sibling who was a meditation teacher. He's a Buddhist living up in Nova Scotia. And then he and I started putting some of his books together and publishing them. One of them is called Roga, the Yoga of Rowing.
Wow.
And Roga, Rowga,
I love
and his
that.
name is Jim Lindsey. And he started that book just by blogging, doing short blogs after he would go out in his rowboat out on the Atlantic.
Right.
So
There's a great move in Kundalini Yoga called rowboat.
really,
Great for your kidneys and the adrenals. It's wonderful for the solar plexus. It's wonderful.
well,
And
I'd love to kayak.
yeah, but the shoulder movements, the way the shoulder blades move, it's very similar. It's one of my favorite go-to exercises. So there you go.
Thank you for joining us today on Peggy's Place, Marge. Thank you for all of your wisdom and your honesty and being real.
Yeah. Well, these are real times, right?
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Thank you.
You've been listening to KGUA 88.3 FM. I'm Leigh Anne Lindsey, and this has been Peggy's Place. Thank you again, Marge, and UnbeatenPathTours.com.
Thank you. That's you, Satnam.
And that will do it for Peggy's Place. That was Marg Lindgren of Unbeaten Path Tours. And this is KGUA in Wallala, a Native Media Resource Center project.